Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Wednesday, the 7th of February. India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj meets a Saudi counterpart in Riyadh to boost ties. Afghan government unveils a new security strategy for Kabul to curb threats. A Nepal National Assembly election concludes in 6 provinces. And now for all the details. India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj and a Saudi Arabian counterpart on Wednesday held talks in Saudi capital Riyadh to boost bilateral ties between the two nations. During her 3-day visit, Swaraj will meet top Saudi leadership to discuss regional and global issues of mutual interest.
India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj on Wednesday met her Saudi Arabian counterpart in Riyadh to boost bilateral ties. The two leaders held discussions on a range of issues including regional and global situation. Swaraj also thanked the Saudi Arabian leader for inviting India as the guest of honor country for an annual cultural festival in Riyadh on Wednesday. Earlier on Tuesday, Swaraj addressed Indian diaspora at a reception in Riyadh. She hailed Prime Minister Modi's 2016 visit to the Gulf Kingdom as a strong visit that provided the much-needed impetus to the growth of relations between both the countries. During her 3-day visit, she will meet with top Saudi leadership to discuss bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest.
Authorities in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir are preparing bunkers in order to protect the residents from Pakistan shelling from across the border. There has been a spate of ceasefire violations by Pakistan this month. Locals live in constant fear as mortar shells drop on houses, farmlands and schools, destroying both lives and property.
Authorities in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir province are nowadays preparing bunkers along its frontier in order to protect its citizens from Pakistan shelling. For the past few weeks, Pakistani troops have repeatedly targeted Indian positions and civilian areas along the line of control or LOC at the de facto border between the two countries. The ceasefire violations have led to loss of many lives, injuries and physical damages in the province.
पिछले कई दिनों से जो LOC पे सीज़फायर वायलेशन है उसमें काफ़ी हद तक इंटेंसिटी आ गई। इससे पहले भी होती रही है बीच-बीच में, लेकिन पिछले 4-5 दिनों में ज़्यादा इंटेंसिटी हो गई। तो हमने पहले ही कुछ 40 के आसपास कम्युनिटी बंकर्स जो थे सैंक्शन कराए थे, उन पे काम लगाया था।
Meanwhile, an anti-Pakistan protest was also held on Tuesday over the repeated border firing. Members of civil society in Poonch district raised slogans against the neighbouring country and even burned an effigy of it. The troops of arch rivals India and Pakistan intermittently exchanged fire on LOC despite an agreement in 2003 that a ceasefire should be observed along the working boundary. Both New Delhi and Islamabad blame each other for resorting to unprovoked firings.
Moving on, angry Pashtun protesters on Tuesday stormed a militant group Taliban's offices in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province over killing of a law student. Pashtuns have long alleged that Pakistani army in association with militant groups are involved in gross human rights violations in the region.
Angry protesters in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on Tuesday stormed the offices of militant group Taliban, which they said allegedly killed a university student. The protesters, who belong to Pashtun community, reacted to death of Idris, a law student who was allegedly killed 2 days ago by Taliban militants. The protesters also reportedly set several vehicles on fire that belonged to the militant group. The militants residing in the buildings, however, managed to escape. The Pashtuns have for long accused that Pakistan army functions along with Taliban in the region and indiscriminately uses force against innocent people in the region. The alleged Pashtuns from the region are subjected to torture, enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings by Pakistani authorities.
In news from Afghanistan, the Afghan government has unveiled a new security strategy for capital Kabul in a bid to make the city safe from attacks by insurgent groups. The strategy comes after a series of recent terror attacks in Kabul and across Afghanistan that have claimed hundreds of lives.
Afghan Interior Ministry has recently unveiled a new security strategy for Kabul in a bid to make the city safe from insurgent attacks. Kabul city in the past 1 month has witnessed a series of deadly terrorist incidents that claimed more than 100 lives. Based on the new plan, side roads connecting suburbs of Kabul to the center of the city will be closed off and intelligence activities will be increased. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has already approved the plan, which will be implemented in a week's time. He removed 7 security officials on Tuesday for negligence over the attack on Afghan military academy in the city last month.
اول بر مردم شریف کابل اطلاع بده که دیروز پلان امنیتی شد تهیه شد در ظرف 2 هفته آینده.
According to the new strategy, the security forces will also undertake search operations in vulnerable areas of Kabul, and the process will be expanded to all parts of the city. Top Afghan security agencies will jointly undertake the implementation of the new security strategy.
Moving on to news from Maldives, the Maldives Supreme Court on Tuesday night revoked its order to release 9 political dissidents, including self-exiled former President Mohammad Nasheed. The order came as a state of emergency has been announced by incumbent President Yamin in the country.
The Maldives Supreme Court on Tuesday night revoked its order to release 9 political dissidents, including self-exiled former President Mohammad Nasheed. The latest development came after President Abdullah Yamin declared a 15-day state of emergency in the country on Monday, giving sweeping powers to security forces in the country, which is reeling under political turmoil. Under the emergency state, the constitutional rights have been suspended, and this has effectively quashed any moves by the opposition to impeach him, while also stripping the Supreme Court of any authority. In the few hours since emergency state was declared, police made a series of high-profile arrests, including former President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom to top court judges. The political turmoil began after Yamin refused to comply with Supreme Court orders to release the political prisoners, including former President Nasheed. Nasheed, who was the first democratically elected leader, was ousted in 2012 and later sentenced to 13 years in jail on terrorism charges. He had earlier expressed hope to return to his country and run for the 2018 presidential elections.
In news from Nepal, polling for the upper house of Nepal's parliament was held on Wednesday. The Himalayan nation, which held a simultaneous polls last year, headed for the final stage, where a total of 52 candidates are in fray for 32 seats, while 24 candidates have already been elected unopposed. The National Assembly, or the upper house of the parliament, will have 59 members in total. All 7 provinces in Nepal voted to elect 8 members each through an electoral college comprising of members of state assemblies and chief and deputy chiefs of local bodies. The remaining 3 members will be nominated by the president. The election will now pave the way to form the new government in the country. Leader of Nepal's CPN-UML, KP Sharma Oli, is expected to be the first Nepali premier under the federal system, which is a new form of governance for the country. In a simple yet unique wedding, 100 couples tied the nuptial knot at a mass marriage ceremony in India's western Gujarat province on Tuesday. The gesture aimed at reducing financial burden on the families of the brides.
Hundreds of couples tied the knot at a grand mass wedding ceremony in India's western Vadodara city on Tuesday. Guests turned up in huge numbers to bless the beaming couples, who dressed up in traditional attire as a helicopter showered rose petals from the sky on them. A colorful act led by dancers enthralled the guests who turned up to witness the ceremony.
मैं चाहता हूं कि समूह लग्न में से ज्यादा लोग जुड़े, ऐसा माहौल, संतों महात्मा का आशीर्वाद, प्रतिनिधियों का आशीर्वाद, मेहमानों, ये घर पे भी नहीं हो सकता।
मैंने कभी सोचा ही नहीं था कि इतना अच्छा प्रोग्राम होगा। मेरी शादी यहाँ पर ऐसे इतने सारे लोग आएंगे, ऐसी व्यवस्था होगी, इतना मान सम्मान।
Group marriages are becoming popular, especially among the financially disadvantaged section of the Indian society, as they reduce worries of monetary implications among parents.
Hundreds of devotees thronged a famous Hindu shrine in India's southern Rameshwaram city to mark the beginning of Maha Shivaratri festival. Devotees offered prayers as the celebrations began with a flag hoisting ceremony.
Scores of devotees on Tuesday thronged the famous Ramanathaswamy temple in India's southern Rameshwaram city to mark the beginning of Hindu festival Maha Shivaratri. The celebrations began with the annual flag hoisting ceremony at the temple and prayers being offered to Lord Shiva. According to popular belief, offering prayers at the temple washes away sins of a lifetime.
आज से शिवरात्रि का मेला चालू हो रहा है। इसके लिए ध्वज प्रदान आज रामेश्वरम मंदिर में हुआ है। अब आज से लेकर 17 तक ये बहुत बड़ा विशेष उत्सव हुआ और शिवरात्रि के दिन में लाखों आदमी यहाँ पर रामेश्वरम आने का संभावना है।
On the occasion of Maha Shivaratri, devotees bathe in holy river Ganges and its tributaries. They also offer fruits and flowers to Lord Shiva. Maha Shivaratri will be celebrated on February 13 this year.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude, the top stories once again. India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj meets a Saudi counterpart in Riyadh to boost ties. Afghan government unveils a new security strategy for Kabul to curb threats. A Nepal National Assembly election concludes in 6 provinces. Now, our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.